Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies, and welcome to the second half of 1989. This is July 7th, and I said yesterday we had 3 movies to look at, but unfortunately I couldn't find any clips of The Music Teacher, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to look at that one today, but we do have 2 other movies, 2 big hits that came out this weekend that are worth talking about. So let's go ahead and start with the biggest of the new releases. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover returning as Riggs and Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon 2. Now, of course, the first Lethal Weapon 2 years prior to this was a major hit for Warner Brothers, and it also redefined the action cop comedy genre for pretty much the rest of all time. And so when Lethal Weapon 2 came out, there was a lot of high expectations, and it exceeded a lot of expectations. It went on to become a huge hit for the studio. It became one of those rare sequels that actually makes much more money than its predecessor did. I think Lethal Weapon 1 only made about, I think, around $67 million domestically, while this one made $150 million domestically during a summer which was already jam-packed with sequels all around. This one was a huge hit for Warner Brothers, and of course it was a big hit critically and financially. Even though a lot of people did complain that the movie did have a little bit of sequelitis to it, but at the same time, they actually did a lot more with this sequel that I think a lot of people give it credit for. I mean, this movie really is a ton of fun. Like, it's a good, fun action comedy sequel. Like, it's a fun movie to watch all around. You got Mel Gibson and Danny Glover reuniting and working their chemistry once again. Richard Donner directing this once again. The action sequences are still very well done. The comedy is still very well done. The new additions to the cast, like Joe Pesci in this, is very well done in this movie. It's just a fun movie. Like, right from the get-go, the movie just tells you what you're in for, and you're having the time of your life watching this car chase that starts the movie off. And it's just a ton of fun to watch all around. Like, the action sequences in this movie are phenomenal. This has some of the best action sequences in the entire series, in my personal opinion. Like, the opening car chase scene, there's a car chase in the middle of the movie that takes place on a mountaintop. The end of the movie where Murtaugh takes out the bad guy, and the bad guy goes, diplomatic immunity, and then Murtaugh just shoots him anyway, and he's just like, it's just been revoked. Like, stuff like that is a ton of fun. I also like how dark it actually kind of gets. There are some moments in here that are actually pretty intense for what you'd expect from a movie like this. And I like that they kind of up the ante here. This is what a good action sequel should do. It should up the ante, up these characters' situations and dilemmas, expand on their characters pretty much, because you do get more into the backstory of Riggs' life, and yeah, it's just a great movie all around. I had a really good time watching this movie. Every time I watch it, it's a great sequel. I won't say it's better than the first one, because I think the first one is still probably the best of the series, but this is just as good. I really like this movie a lot. I would say watch it if you got a chance to, but if you haven't seen it already, but chances are you probably have already. So that's my thoughts on Lethal Weapon 2. Now let's go on to the other big hit that really took a lot of people by surprise. It's another one of those movies that has a premise that's so stupid, so ridiculous that you would never think it would work, and then lo and behold, boom, Weekend at Bernie's. This is actually the director Ted Kochev's second movie that came out in 1989. We already looked at his first one, Winter People. I already checked that out on a previous episode. I'll put a link to that one up at the corner here. But this movie, Weekend at Bernie's, was not only much more successful, but I'm not gonna lie, it's actually a lot funnier than I think we gave it credit for. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like the first Mannequin. It's one of those movies where you don't think it's going to work at all. It's going to be a huge disaster, and yet when you watch it, there's this strange charm about it that actually does kind of work. And I think I think Weekend at Bernie's obviously is a much better movie than Mannequin is, and I think it's because they know how stupid this is. They know how stupid this plot is. They know how ridiculous this premise is going to be. And yet, somehow, it still works regardless of what you really think about it. It's one of those movies that it definitely grows with time. When you really look at it, it has definitely grown into time. I think Entertainment Weekly described it once as being something that has aged into something close to respectability. and the fact that the movie remains popular even to this very day, like, it tells you a lot, man. Like, it's not, this isn't like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Earth Girls Are Easy, but it's fun for what it is. Like, it's a fun movie. I like watching Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman work off each other. I like that Terry Kaiser is just having the time of his life playing this dead guy for much of the movie. And I like this idea that nobody even suspects that that Bernie is a dead guy, and he's just moving around so much. I like some of the ridiculous ways that they try to make it seem like that Bernie is still alive. And it's like, it's ridiculous, it's silly, but it actually kind of works. Like, it's weird. It's a weird sort of thing with these. There were a lot of these movies back in the 80s. These movies that should not work because of their premise whatsoever, and yet here we are with another one here, and it actually does kind of work. So, yeah, Weekend at Bernie's. Like, it's one of those movies that you think, it was a hit at the time, it's going to be dated now, it's going to be quickly forgettable, and yet it isn't. Like, it's one of those movies that, I won't say it's a masterpiece, I won't say it's one of the greatest comedies of all time, but it's a lot funnier than I think we gave it a lot more credit for. So, if you haven't seen Weekend at Bernie's, I'd say definitely check it out for yourself. I think you might be pleasantly surprised if you go in with the right note. If you go into this movie thinking that if you go into this movie accepting that it's going to be stupid, it's going to be ridiculous, it's going to be over the top, I think you can definitely get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I know I certainly did. So, that's my thoughts on Weekend at Bernie's. By the way, this guy's directing credits are very interesting. Like, he's done comedies like Fun with Dick and Jane. He also did Switching Channels and Folks, which we'll get to in '92. But he also did movies like North Dallas 40, The First Blood, and yeah, just a really interesting film, just a really interesting filmography from this guy, Ted Kotcheff. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Weekend at Bernie's. And with that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, we go to July 14th. We have a new James Bond movie with Timothy Dalton, his second and last movie in the Bond series, License to Kill. Peter Pan gets re-released by Disney, and we have one of the great romantic comedies of all time, Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally. So, we'll look at those three movies next time around. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out a previous episode on the next page, and then check out the playlist below. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the weekend of July 14th. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and until then, take care.